All right, 3, 2, 1. Hi, this is William Ramsey. Welcome to William Ramsey Investigates. On tonight's show, I have a very special guest. His name is Jason Hay. He is a documentary film producer. He's in the process of making a documentary titled Spahn Ranch Worker, the Stoner Van Houten story. Last week, we did have Stoner on it was 2 weeks ago, actually. He did an excellent job, talked about his association with the Spahn Ranch. It's a very timely subject. The 50th anniversary of the grisly murders of the Sharon Tate and her household and the LaBiancas the day after is August 8th, 2019. So Jason's just going to talk a little bit about his project. And Jason, are you there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Well, thanks for agreeing to the interview. So for people who don't know you, talk a little bit about your background, how you became interested in making documentaries, and then kind of segue into Spahn Ranch Worker.
Absolutely. Thanks. Yeah, this is my maybe second large documentary project. The first one I did was connected to the Grey Garden story, actually, and it was fantastic, and it actually got me into kind of the not the art, but I guess the art of making documentaries. And I also had an interest in the Manson story from basically around high school when I first read Helter Skelter, and that kind of got me into the story of the crimes, and I became fascinated kind of with the area of Spahn Ranch and actually California on a whole. So I guess around 2016, I really started getting into not investigating, but looking into the Manson story, and that's kind of when I came across Stoner, as he's known online. And I live out here in Maine, so I'm really far from California. So for me, it was a great way to see Spahn Ranch and learn the history of it through Stoner going there with his camera and showing people around, and I found it fascinating. He broadcasts twice a day on YouTube, so I was able to reach out to him that way and learn a little bit about him. He had been in prison, and he's very open with his audience about that, and I found it fascinating that someone could use a really negative, in most people's mind, subject and use it for such a positive, force. He basically admits that it kind of keeps him out of prison to, give tours, interact with his audience, and talk about the case.
Right. I mean, he really knows a lot. He's actually kind of an encyclopedia that is kind of keeping the memory alive as we kind of move towards 50 years. It's an important story.
Yeah, and this year in particular, there's many different projects coming out. The Quentin Tarantino movie will be out next week, and I'm sure that's just going to drive people's interest in not only Spahn Ranch but the case into the forefront.
Right. No doubt. I mean, I think that I would assume that most of the major networks and major things are going to either dust off some old documentaries or bring things off and still cause and create and maintain controversy about the case. I think, so it's still important. I mean, that's kind of one of the ending things of the 60s was the Manson murders, and then Altamont was, I think, in December of 69.
Right. I think the history of Spahn Ranch, just as a whole, outside of the Manson family, a lot of people forget that it was a very active movie ranch dating back to the silent film era. There's a tremendous amount of just movie history there. I was lucky enough, like I said, to go out in 2017. That was my first trip out there. I met up with Stoner, took one of his tours, and just across the way, literally across the street from Spahn Ranch, is where they filmed The Lone Ranger. You can go up and see the the rock that he stood on and stuff.
So there's at the intro. It's a very famous place.
Exactly, exactly. The Garden of the Gods is what that area is called, and
Right.
it's beautiful. And you know, there, I think I'm hoping actually with the Tarantino movie coming out that people will start to look at the case a little bit differently. You know, the I guess buying into Helter Skelter, if people even just know the briefest amount about it, it doesn't really hold water, you know. And I think as I see more and more projects coming out that are starting to poke holes in that case, and it's.
So did you come to that conclusion?
Did
you come to that conclusion recently, or was that something that you came to after studying everything?
I would say probably it would be Nicholas Schreck's research. It was probably the most impactful for me. Kind of made me look at it a different way.
What's his general opinion?
That would be I mean, it can be, most of the theories can be broken down to be it was you either believe Helter Skelter, the race war kind of theory. You believe the Bobby Beausoleil copycat motive to try to release Bobby Beausoleil by performing a series of copycat crimes the nights after. He was the one who killed Gary Hinman. I mean, there are victims on both sides of the Tate LaBianca crime. And actually, I wouldn't mind talking about how the LaBiancas get looked over as well once we get there. But to finish up, all right, the Bobby Beausoleil copycat, and that's George Stimson's book, Goodbye Helter Skelter, kind of puts that information out pretty concisely. There's Tom O'Neill's research with the CIA, MK Ultra, or perhaps Manson being a police informant of some sort. I want to believe that because I believe in a lot of that other stuff. And then there's the Nicholas Schreck kind of puts the drug burn, that it was basically, these were Hollywood drug dealers burning other Hollywood drug deals. And once the drug world's the underworld,
kind of coming
gets
in
taken
and out.
care of in the underworld.
You're coming in and out, so can you...
Oh, sorry, where did you lose me?
You're just...
Right. Where did you lose me?
I think we got it, just recently. Just the last statement. So I heard it, but
Sorry.
you just got to be close to the mic, and I think it might be a little lag or something. So Shrek is the one that believes it's all a drug burn, but if it's all a drug burn, there's a lot more going on to the story. You know, there's even like some of the stuff that's in O'Neill's book, there's a lot of really seedy things going on. It's pretty clear that Manson operated around with Polanski and Melcher and all these guys. Absolutely,
and I agree. And what I like with what Tom came up with was Manson was a federal parolee and had been busted several times. I'm not going to blow all Tom's research for him. You should buy the book. But he was a federal parolee who had been busted for several crimes, which should have landed him in jail well before the murders.
Right.
And that's certainly something to not ignore.
He was kind of like an Epstein,
there's
He was kind of like an Epstein. He was trafficking in underage women. It's statutory rape, right? I mean, I think that if he's always kind of moving, it's like, why didn't they get him for that?
Right. If Manson's anything, he was certainly a pimp. Right.
I mean, that was one of his first jobs, was a pimp, right?
Well, he had offices right by the Magic Castle on Franklin.
I didn't know that. So he operated his prostitution ring right there off of Franklin?
Okay, you know where the Magic Castle is? That apartment building still stands there. It's the apartment. There's the Magic Castle, a vacant lot in that apartment building. That was it's either 4 or 5-star entertainment. That was his pimping operation.
I know exactly where that is. Yeah, it's right where Highland meets Franklin.
Yeah, so you can go down there and check that out yourself.
Interesting. Yeah, that's right in the center of Hollywood, too. So I think that, that's just another element of Manson is once the murders happened, people probably knew it was him, and then they just wanted to keep their mouth shut and wash all the evidence away that they knew him,
Right. And it's like, that's really the crazy thing about this case, and why I made it over to find Stoner. Honestly, it's just my fascination in the case, and then I wanted to also tell Stoner's story of like redemption. Basic. That's kind of a strong word, but like staying out of prison using this negative topic.
Right. Well, it's a redemptive
So that's,
story,
I
no
guess
doubt. Yeah.
that's the crux of my documentary. But I'll also like do a lot of filming at Spahn Ranch to take people there. I'll remind people of the film history, and then I'm also going to be capturing all the antics going on for the 50th anniversary. That I'll be
So,
there for 2 weeks.
so you're going to come out and film during that August 8th or whatever?
Yeah, like I'll get there the first.
Oh wow!
And
And I mean, that's not too far away. How far along in the documentary are you?
yeah, I mean, the fact that Stoner's not dead. I was looking for a nice ending for this documentary, and the fact that it was kind of lining up with this large event makes it a good arc. You know,
Good arc, a good bookend.
I kind of thought so. And I kind of will, get to kind of live out my little bit of this in hoping to, shed a little bit more light on Spawn Ranch proper, not just focus on the crimes,
Right. Well, I mean, it's a
which
piece.
is
It's a piece of
fascinating,
Hollywood
though.
history,
I mean,
right?
there couldn't be a more fascinating subject about even just how the media manipulates Manson. I mean, you're going to find Manson called a serial killer or a mass murderer 9 times out of 10 when he was neither. I just find that fascinating that the media can manipulate it so hard. And I'm just hoping that, like I said, that it will shift it back now with that media power.
Well, there's never any evidence that he actively killed anybody, right? Nobody said he killed anybody. There's no testimony he killed anybody. Although there is stuff that he was the ringleader, right?
Well, yeah, and that's kind of like one of my notes that I have here is just like, I mean, you can just look at this as it was a commune of people back in a time where, people were living like that.
Right.
So I can imagine small pockets or cliques going on within this commune where like, okay, we're dealing drugs over here. We're selling cars and pimping over here. We all kind of are a collective, but, we're not always in the same league, in the same or like doing the same crimes. We may know about the other crimes, and that's why Manson got like burned so bad, is because he wouldn't snitch, because he grew up institutionalized where if you snitch you're going to be dead. So we'd rather keep the secrets of his compatriots. I mean,
They had a lot of secrets, Their Shorty Shea disappeared. One of their lawyers was found dead in a river. There are people who
yep,
died
Ronald
in
Hughes.
Venice. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of deaths around them.
Absolutely.
That a lot of, even the general narratives don't even cover the suspicious deaths of the Manson family. I thought it was interesting. I was talking to Tom O'Neill today, and there were these tapes where Tex Watson talks about all the other murders that nobody ever talked about, and they're still extant, but they've never made it into the public eye. So,
Yeah, the Watson tapes were debated for like the people want those tapes out. Supposedly he said some pretty crazy stuff in it.
right. Well, I mean, it's gone through the court system, I think, is my
Right.
understanding. So, but as far as your documentary goes, like, when did you get started on the project?
That would have been 2017 when I first went out to Spahn. I did some initial filming out there because I met up with Stoner at that point, and I kind of wanted to do that. I mean, you see someone on YouTube or whatever, you kind of want to see him in person,
Sure.
before you kind of like get invested with trying to tell their story.
Sure. And so he was, when you talked to him, he was amenable to the whole documentary of his involvement?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's proud of like his story, the fact that it's he's trying to do good. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's
You sent me, and you've done some other work. You sent me that video of Manson and Krishna Venta. Was that on the same grounds as Spahn Ranch?
okay. That's I'm glad you mentioned that. That is in Box Canyon, which is maybe 4 or 5 minutes away by car,
So it's close.
at most. And the Fountain of the World is the name of was the name of a cult run by a man who changed his name to Krishna Vente in 1948. And a lot of people, well, not people think that some of what got put on Manson was actually what Krishna Vente did up in Box Canyon. Now he was the type of person that would hang himself on a cross and claim to be Jesus. He also called his disciples by the colors of the rainbow, like Manson did later on, supposedly. But Krishna Vente was killed December 10th, 1958, just up the way. But the Manson family did go to Fountain of the World. They were aware of what the teachings.
So they understood him. I mean, and Manson, was like cut out of the same cloth. A similar type of person, thought he was Jesus. But when he's talking about, he knew about it. In the video, you have him talking about it, and it shows his understanding of cult dynamics. But also, it just shows Manson's strange kind of intelligence, because he talks like he knows the details about what happened at the Fountain of the World. I think the guy's original name, Krishna Vente, was like he was from Serbian, right? Something like that.
He was foreign. I'm looking for his name here, but
yeah, I mean, but that's one of many cults. L.A. is an epicenter for cult activity of all different types. It's not.
Are you aware of the Spiral Staircase house in
Tell me about
Malibu?
that. I am.
At the
it's
end
really
of
in Topanga.
Canyon.
It's in the center of Topanga Canyon.
It's right behind the Real Inn restaurant, which has great fried oysters, by the way.
That's good to know.
But the Spiral Staircase was like an abandoned house in the 60s. As you know, a lot of mudslides come down through the canyon and had supposedly washed out the bottom floor with sand. It was pretty much uninhabitable. But it was used as like a drug and flop house in the 60s. And the Manson family was known to hang out there, as well as just like Hollywood people just trying to get out and kind of get their freak on. The remains of that are still there. You can still see the foundation. It's fascinating.
Well, have you visited there? Because I think it's now part of a restaurant, right?
No, it's behind the restaurant, and
Gotcha.
there's like a little park behind it. If you go up on that hillside, there's a little hillside behind there. I've stood right on the brick foundation down there.
Interesting.
It's fantastic.
Well, and then Hinman's Hinman's place is close to that, right?
It is. It's up the way, but you also have another Manson location even closer behind the Malibu feed bin.
Yeah.
Are you familiar with that area?
Yeah, right on Highway 1, yeah.
Yeah, it was called the Snake Pit back in the day, and that's where they picked up Diane Lake.
Now, who's Diane Lake? Remind me, I don't remember.
She's known as Snake, I believe, and she just put a book out maybe last year.
And
she was one of the younger members of the family.
Gotcha.
She was 14 years old. But she was part of Wavy Gravy's cult before that. And she had gotten a handwritten note from her folks to make it okay to be with Manson. I don't want to say the Manson family.
So she was the Mary Prankster? She was a Mary Prankster as well? Because I think that was Wavy Gravy.
No, Wavy Gravy, was he a prankster? That was Ken
so.
Kesey.
No, I think Wavy Gravy was involved in the pranksters, man.
Oh, right on. Yep. Well, they were close to that area as well. I believe it was a little further up from Spahn. I know that's not in Topanga, but the Wavy Gravy's compound wasn't far from Spahn.
Right. He had the hog farm or something.
That's what it was. The hog farm. Correct.
I'm pretty sure. I'm looking it up to see if I could have swore that he was a member of the Merry Pranksters. I guess not.
I'm just kind of looking through my notes here, making sure I'm hitting all my high notes. Well, I'd like to promote Scott Michaels' tour on the 8th, 9th, and 10th.
Who's Scott Michaels?
He does the Dearly Departed tours out in Hollywood, and a podcast, the Dearly Departed podcast. He's a wealth of knowledge of Hollywood true crime, and did the 6 Degrees of Helter Skelter documentary, which is enjoyable. He sticks a little close to the Helter Skelter narrative, but his location information is spot on, for sure.
So are you going to be partaking in both his stuff and Stoner stuff when you're out
Yeah, well,
here?
because Stoner will be part of Scott's tour on the
Gotcha.
10th, which will be the Spahn Ranch part of the tour.
Gotcha. So do you
Yeah,
think
we'll
you'll
be
go
going to the
to?
Nicholas Schreck. Nicholas Schreck will be in Hollywood as well. He's it's the 30th anniversary of his film. Uh,
Which film was his? Which film was that?
oh, geez, Charles Manson Superstar.
Superstar. I see.
Yep, and his book is The Manson File: The Myth and Reality of an Outlaw Shaman. It's fantastic.
And is Shrek still married to Zena LeVay? Is that right? Weren't they married at one point?
They were married. I'm not sure if they still are, but they certainly were. Yep.
Interesting.
He was very active in the Church of Satan for a while. Yep.
So there's all kinds of things coming up. I mean, I
Absolutely.
would. Yeah,
There's also where is it? The Lethal Amounts Gallery in downtown LA is doing the Once Upon a Time or Once Upon a Manson. They have an event. I don't have the
yeah. I think Stoner talked about that. I think
yeah.
he said
We'll be going to that as well, and they're going to have a lot of different artifacts.
Charles Manson, Once Upon a Time in '69, an exhibition
Thank-
looking into the world
thank-
of Charles Manson. Would that be it?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Lethal Amounts with the upside down cross. It should be an interesting scene. I don't
Yeah,
think
man.
nobody will be in color. Everybody will be wearing black.
I'm gonna pack accordingly. Yeah, I mean, I'm really looking forward to when I do projects like this, I try to immerse myself as much as possible and really just kind of get in there and film everything and sort it out after with the editing. But I'm gonna try to give people a full accounting of the 50th as well.
When you going to stream it, or what's your plan to?
This will end up on Vimeo at the
Vimeo.
very least,
Yeah.
and will be available on that platform.
Gotcha. It seems to be the most amenable to documentary filmmakers.
Yeah, you don't always need all the clearances
Really?
for music, which can be nice. It gives you it allows a lot of freedom for sure. Yeah,
Yeah, freedom without censorship or anything like that. Vimeo's
absolutely.
definitely. I'm glad I found Vimeo. How long do you think the film will be?
I'm shooting for 90 minutes.
Nice. And the title again is Spawn Ranch Worker Stoner Van Houten Story.
Correct. And I have a website. It's wilsonzephyr.com. I can spell the Zephyr part.
Do it.
Zepher.
Wilson Zepher Zephyr.
I also have the most active for this project is the Spawn Ranch Worker Facebook page.
Nice. The Spawn Ranch Worker phase. So that's a place where people can go and see all this information of what's coming on, right?
Absolutely. The trailer for the documentary is up there. You can buy merch up there. Gotcha. Pictures of Spawn Ranch that are rare. I'm gonna try my best to give people a fantastic tour of Spawn Ranch in the documentary and hit all the sites that are still there. You have to use your imagination, which will be enhanced by some filmmaking techniques, overlaying where, houses and buildings used to be to give people an idea. But there's still a lot of stuff to see out there. They were known for stealing cars, and, there's a lot of cars still out there hidden in the hills. Yep.
When you, the history of the Spawn Ranch, how did it become state property?
Geez, part of it is they're slowly selling it off. The church, there's a church in that area that owns part of the property. And actually before, YouTube and social media, they were trying to keep people out of there as much as possible, saying that they owned the land when in fact they didn't. And there's a rock down there in the creek bed. It's called the Manson Rock. It was the rock that Manson was known to sit on that rock. That's where Terry Melcher went to see him perform. And the church went in with a saw and with a diamond blade on it and hacked it up.
Wow. So they just
it's
wanted
still
the
down
memory
there,
gun.
but
Wow.
it's a lot smaller, but they actually just made it a lot easier for people to grab pieces of it.
I see. So people are taking stuff, and I
You're
hear
not
people.
supposed to. You're not supposed to, but
But aren't there
they
caves?
didn't do themselves any favors by cutting that rock up.
Aren't there caves up there where people go and?
Those are the baby
graffiti?
caves, is what they're called, and that is on private land, so that is unadvisable.
But people still go anyway.
Absolutely, because it's kind of like a hidden area. Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep, and that's where they would run like communication wire from the ranch out to the caves, and that's where they would go to hide when they thought the police were coming. I mean, there's fascinating spots on the back part of the ranch, the Red Mesa, where you can basically see both the highways coming in, so you could tell if people were coming to mess with you, bikers or whatever.
Interesting. And what was the original acreage of Spahn Ranch? Do you know?
Jeez, at least, oh man, 500 or more.
So it was good. It was very sizable.
Yeah,
A good size.
There's the coach road runs behind it as well.
Interesting.
Michael Channels is really the one
who knows all the details.
Yeah, he's the one who gave it to Stoner, and unfortunately, he's had to take some of his material down. Not had to, but he has removed some of his material on YouTube. But hopefully, it will be back up again. But those two guys would show you very in depth, and Channels would get it from Manson himself.
And it was burnt down in a fire, right? Isn't that what happened?
In 1971, September 26th, I believe. Yep.
Was it in disrepair and then it burnt down, or what? It was
it
happened
was
right
one of
after
the fires that normally come down. I think it was one of the famous fires that ripped through that area.
Oh, I see.
And one of the only Have you been out there yet?
I know the area. I don't think I've been to Spahn Ranch, but I've been up in.
You could probably drive by it without even knowing it, unless you line up that hillside, that mountaintop that's behind it.
See, I've been.
There is
Ranch,
one
so
burnt relic still on the property. I'm not going to disclose what it is or where it is, but there is still an original part of the ranch that you can still see standing and see the burn marks on it.
Interesting.
It's part of Stoner's.
Can you see the ranch when you're driving down the 118? It's there. It's viewable from the freeway, right?
I'm not super. Is that the Ronald Reagan?
Yes, correct.
Yes,
So
I believe you can.
So it's on Simi Valley. Yeah, I've been by there. I'm sure I've driven by there many times.
Hey man, you're in the area. You should come. You should. Link up.
Yeah, absolutely. Check it out. Go up.
The tours are free, and the Family Jams Day is. There's going to be some special guests there. I know that for a fact. I don't think Stoner wants me to disclose who's going to be there. But if you wanted to hear the real stories of Spahn Ranch, from someone very close to the story, I would try to make it to that Family Jams Day.
Wasn't he Manson known for like holding religious ceremonies there as well, and that's where he would. I thought that there was one story the girls saw him change a stone into a butterfly. Do you ever remember that?
He made a bird come back to life.
That's
or something.
it. Yeah, something.
I mean, hey, if you're on acid, I'm not going to blame everything on acid, but
Right.
and there, to that point, there were a lot of people during that time, doing the guru thing. I don't think it was unique in that fashion.
Right. I don't think so either.
And I honestly don't think he sent people out to kill people. I don't think he had any interest in going back to prison.
So you don't think that he was when the people said that he was the one who instructed him to kill, that was a lie, or that was fake?
Yeah, so, I think Tex Watson. Here's a couple things. I know for a fact that Manson knew that Terry Melcher did not live in that house anymore. Okay?
Right.
So if he was trying to get Terry Melcher, he knew where to find Terry Melcher.
Right. It wouldn't be that hard, honestly, to figure it out.
Yeah. He was in Malibu at his mom's house.
Right.
But and I know Tex Watson knew that house very well because he had done other drug deals up there with Jay Sebring and Voracek. You know, Voracek was trying to become one of the big MDMA dealers. You know, that was a new drug. You know, he was trying to get set up for that. So there was a lot of drug deals going on up there. You can get into the whole Mama Cass thing. You know, her boyfriend, Pick Dawson, was a drug dealer, supposedly maybe sodomized on the grounds of Seattle the night before.
Well, right, yeah.
You know, that's in the O'Neill book, if I'm not mistaken.
Absolutely. That and
there was a lot of crazy stuff up there. And
yeah.
If you think about who was in charge of California at that time, it was basically Hollywood was in charge with Reagan, okay? He was the governor. So yeah, I think a lot of Hollywood with him, Evil Younger, I think a lot of it was just Hollywood trying to protect itself.
But so it was basically, you think the drug burn theory is correct, and that's what involved. How did that involve? Hinman was involved in drugs or the money, but how does that involve LaBianca?
Exactly. There was talk about the LaBianca daughter knowing Tex Watson.
Interesting.
And also being involved possibly with the Straight Satans motorcycle club. Because you notice that what people theorize about the LaBiancas is Charlie was there to rob them, okay? He did take money from them. And you know where he went? Immediately to Venice at like 3 a.m, okay? That's a little bit of a drive from Los Feliz, you know?
Definitely.
I'm pretty sure he went immediately to the Straight Satans clubhouse to pay them off for the Bobby Beausoleil Hinman mescaline deal. That, I believe, traces back. Why did Tex go in there? Was he just tweaking and killed people? Did he misinterpret something? Or did he owe Charlie a favor for when Charlie shot Lots of Papa and thought he killed him?
Right. But
this case is so wild like that,
so
you know?
Man. But they were involved in all kinds of underground stuff, so it's stealing, drugs. Who knows? I mean,
who can really think now, though, that it all went down because Manson said, we're going to start a race war.
No, I don't.
And we're going to go into the desert and live in a hole for however many years. After the war is over, we're going to come out and then, take over for the black people like that? That can't stand water anymore, man.
I don't think so. But I think really what he was doing was really zapping his followers into thinking that. He might not even have thought that. That was just part of his shtick, you know. But I mean, I think, you know, he could have been paid off to go do something.
I think it had anything to do with Helter Skelter. I think that was.
I don't think so.
And if we learned anything from O'Neill's book, you know, that was strictly Bugliosi's invention, man. He wasn't trying to get a conviction that lasts forever. He thought they were going to die, you know? He thought they were going to die in the gas chamber or electric chair, whatever you guys had out there back in the day. But it wasn't supposed to go this long, you know?
Have you ever tried to reach out to Bobby Beausoleil in jail? Has anybody really reached out?
I'm quote unquote friends with him on Facebook.
Okay, so
his story's fascinating.
Yeah.
He's a political prisoner at this point, man.
Why do you say that?
Because he will never get released because he wasn't even there was no family, you know? He wasn't even connected with the commune, you know? He had way more going on than anyone in that group, you know?
Right, but he
was already in love, you know? He was in a major, psychedelic band.
Right, it was
hanging out with Kenneth Anger, trying to be Lucifer.
He lived with Kenneth Anger.
They made Lucifer Rising together. Yeah. You know, that's
a whole side story. I cover that whole story in Children of the Beast, my book Children of the Beast. I cover that, and it's interesting that I don't remember it in Bugliosi's book, and it's certainly not in Tom O'Neill's. Nobody seems to want to talk about that, even though Sandra's family had I think the Process Church sued him and made him take out the second chapter. So that's kind of like an underground classic. That was about them. I'm just stating that for the listener. But they're the only ones who talk about the process. And Charlie had a little bit of some process theology there. When he's talking about Christ and Satan being one and he's one, you know.
Yeah, it's above, so below stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And Beausoleil was freaked out by Anger too. Anger was doing all kinds of weird magical rituals and.
Well, yeah, he was trying to get with them as well.
Right,
Like,
right. Like
so that was
get
kind
with,
of freaking
right.
him out.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
head full of acid, and dude doing like magic over you is
Well,
probably pretty intimidating.
Beausoleil was like a ladies' man too, right? I mean, he
Yeah,
was.
that's what I mean. He didn't need any of this. He didn't need Charlie's swagger. You know what I mean? If Charlie had anything, it was charisma, and Bobby had it in spades. Bobby got messed up with the straight Satans, you know, who he met at the ranch, and you know that was that big drug deal through Hinman. That's how that all goes down. And the girls love Bobby, which is another reason that, you know, a lot of people like the copycat killings, you know,
Right.
because the girls were trying to get Bobby out.
Was DeCarlo the head of the straight Satans, or was it somebody else?
No, he was was he the treasurer? I think he was the treasurer. It's him and Al Springer. You can find their interviews on cielodrive.com. I hope he doesn't mind me saying his name, Bo Emerson. He runs cielodrive.com. If you want to research on the case, from audio files to photographs to just good information, there isn't a better one.
Well, finding good information is important because almost everybody's like has an agenda or lying, at least from the original case. Not necessarily the researchers, but
Sure.
when you read O'Neill's book,
I didn't want to go there, but I guess I will say it. I mean, this community outside of most, I'm aware of other true crime communities. This community doesn't always get along, I find. And I really think the community as a whole would do much better just trying to get on maybe the same page in the fact that we kind of look into this stuff and not fight amongst each other. There are plenty of people that just would rather, just
find something
diss on other people's information or just point out people's various agendas when we all have an agenda in this. I expect to be like, not everyone likes Stoner Van Houten, okay? So the fact that, hey, I'm doing something on Stoner might not put me in the best light in this community, and then I'm that much more removed because, I'm trying to do it on him, It's just, I don't expect.
Well, you're never going to make
I'm confident in the story I'm trying to tell as far as...
in any community group, you're never going to make everybody happy. Just don't,
that's for sure.
Don't even expect to, get away with ruffling feathers or whatever.
It is a fascinating case, and I just hope that, people just will look into it beyond, helter skelter. That's probably the most important thing.
Well, that's a good way to wrap it up. So the name of your documentary, when do you think it'll be released?
Yeah, I'm shooting for October or November of this year.
So not that far away.
Nope. I'm basically going to film in a couple weeks here, and that's the end, and then I'll come back and finish the editing up. Let me just, you mind if I just give you the few websites real quick again?
Please do. Yes, absolutely.
So I've got the Spahn Ranch Worker on Facebook. That's the Stoner Van Houten story. WilsonZephyr.com. That's Wilson, ZEPHER.com.
All right, and it's Jason Hay, right? Hay.
Correct. Thank you.
Awesome. Jason, thank you very much. Spahn Ranch Worker, the Stoner Van Houten story. I appreciate it.
Thanks, William.
Bye-bye.